Howdy. I'm a man. You may address me as Alan Douglas, and I am your fellow man. This is my first film ever that I've ever done, but as many of us, my voice has never been heard, but by few. And we are at a crossroads on this land with this de facto government of ours, and I'll get to that part in a minute. Where there's a lot of harm, loss, and injury coming to the public by the public service and public servants and societies and organs that operate on our land. Now, I know any native guys that are watching this, they go, "Your land, white man." What about mine? Okay. You know, as we did come over, as the voyageurs came over, and the pioneers, voyageurs, the settlers, then the immigrants. That's basically how it happened here. Now, of course, the establishment they saw three types of folks on this land. And the establishment was a letter of patent for the charter for the Hudson's Bay, Prince Rupert or whatever his name was, and Rupert's land. But a charter for the Hudson's Bay granted by the king on how they conduct themselves when they came over here 400 some odd years ago. And they had three classes of persons. Okay, well, they had two classes of persons and then one they recognized man. Now, the class of person was an English citizen. Okay, an English citizen fell under the authority of the charter, under the jurisdiction of the charter. They had those that were non-Christian natives that they were at war with, that they could kill. All right, that's basically the truth. You just kill those guys. And then there was I guess three classes, because then there was the Christian natives that fell under the jurisdiction also. But there was man. It was those who weren't seen as Indians that were born on this land, or whose mothers did born of this land, and those they had no jurisdiction over. So, like, say I was hunting, fishing, trapping on the side of a mountain, and the Hudson's Bay Company people came by and said, "Hey, we want to set up a colony or a settlement or something on this piece of land." They had to work it out with me on value, like, compensate the man. And when I say man, guys, I mean mankind, and that's all of us, every one of us, unless you're an actual alien from outer space. All right? I don't care what your person is. I don't care how many persons you have. We all have a lot of persons. So please don't, just don't take this in a bad way. I mean, we're the species of man. I don't care how tall, short, fat, skinny, dark, light. I don't care if you glow in the dark. We are all equal. All of us. All of us. Now, even though we are all the same, we are all unique. And every one of us has a right. And every one of us should be encouraged on our uniqueness to build our lives. Not discouraged because we don't fit into the status quo. Now, I said this film was about these guys doing the private prosecution, and I'm going to get to it. I just feel a need, like, there's so much wrongdoing going on within Canada, within the corporate body, okay, the corporate soul, the Canadian government, with provincial governments, the whole works of them. They're all incorporated, all of them. Okay, we don't have a de jure government. We have a corporate soul that acts. They have a two-party system, okay, a two-part system. Okay, one is to act as a government, okay, for the people, all right, public servants. And their other one is to make money, all right, as a corporation. Canada is owned and operated by the inner city of London, the Crown, the inner city of London Crown. I suggest anybody that doesn't understand any of this, go and do your homework like the rest of us had to. You won't find this in school because these private Crown schools that operate on public money in the public trust as trustees to teach our kids writing, reading, and arithmetic have really purposely propagandized our children with political nonsense, with doom and gloom, and forgot about teaching them the 3 R's. All right. Okay. My head is swimming with everything that's going on. The country is a mess. This nation is divided again still. And the reason I was going back to the natives here is because when we came over, when our forebears came over, okay, they basically brought their fiddles. And as they got to meet and know and work with and trade with the people of this land at that time, a lot of them fell in love, and they call it the fiddle met the drum. And it's what all you political persons call our Métis. The first true, like Canadians, as a nation, and the most disrespected folks within the country. It's just terrible. And the reason I'm going back a little bit is because it's the establishment. You know, I hear white man, white man, white man, white man. Oh, come on, slavery is around for thousands of years. Many, many white slaves. Many white slaves. You didn't become a slave in the day by the color of your skin, man. All right? None of us did. Okay, it was just about the force at the time that was taking over whatever piece of property at the time. That's whatever their customs were on slavery. That's what we ended up with. Now, thank God, you know, the British were the first ones to start to get some kind of soul to outlaw slavery. And I'll tell you something else that's not taught in school. Canada was the first to outlaw slavery in the New World. Not Britain, not England, Canada. Sorry, I'm yelling. All right. We had 2-3 French kings, Canada, before we got our first English monarch, all right? So, you know, there was a war fought, and everybody knows about the French-English War, and so on and so forth. They had native folks working on their side against the British. The British had native guys working on their side against the English. The French at the time were still big on slavery. And so if you were an enemy combatant, if you were a native guy that worked with the English, you became a slave if you got caught, if you weren't killed. Also, of course, they were in the slave trade, bringing up, you know, our cousins from Africa. So, and big time. So when we got our first, our first, basically, he was an AG as well as the Governor General. Okay, and now the AG. Now, if anybody, there again, they're not going to teach you any of this, but the AG and the Governor General are basically one piece that they divide into two. So, and they both operate under letters of patent of the monarch, of the Queen, the monarch, the king, and thank God. This man. Now, at the time, England was getting pretty upset, you know, like debtor's prison, slavery, and that. I mean, all wrong. And when I say wrong, I mean crooked wrong. As if, no, I've got a technical reason to harm somebody and to ruin their life. Okay, that kind of wrong. I woke up this morning thinking how I could screw somebody. that kind of wrong. And that's basically what wrong means, okay? Crooked. So, thank God this guy, you know, had a conscience, and he saw the slavery, and because the war had just ended between the British and the French, he knew that to get rid of slavery on this land was going to be a tricky item, because there could have been a whole civil revolt. Because you got to remember, Eastern Canada, you know, they thrived on slavery. I mean, that's what they used. It was quite common with the Romans, quite common with the Persians, quite common, I mean, through history. All these nations had slaves one time or another. And I know the native folks had slaves from other tribes and so on and so forth. So it's not like it only happened to our African cousins that were sold into slavery by their own peers, you know, warring tribes and stuff, but it happened to everybody at one time. When Islam had a good chunk of Europe, they were taking our blonde-haired, blue-eyed girls for the harems for like 500 years. So, slavery can happen to anybody. So they got a new way of slavery, eh? Through the legal system, through your person, okay? Your person. Well, those are two big words. But I'm not going to digress off the short little history lesson here. Look, our first AG saw the wrong in slavery. And this is 40 years before England got rid of slavery. So fix your Wikipedia, dudes. All right, and but the biggest problem he had was you can't just, you know, we're going to have another revolt, you know, and there's going to be another frickin' war. And so what he did was he said, okay, slavery is ended on this land as of now, but, you know, you got a slave now, that's still your property, okay? Now don't get upset with calling another man or that my kids are my property, my wife is my property, I am my wife's property, I am my kid's property, all right? I'm exclusive to them only, as a dad, as a father, as a husband, okay? That person is private. So anyways, he goes, okay, how can we do this? So what he did was said, okay, you got your property now, all right, but if they have any offspring, you have a duty and obligation and a responsibility to make sure they are clothed, that they receive health care, that they receive education, and they are fed properly until they're 23. And that, you know, and that's something that's something I thought of when I was listening to Obamacare when they were first, you know, fighting over it, because they could stay under the parents' health care until they were 23, and I thought that was kind of cool. And I was probably the only one that got it, you know. But yeah, and that's how we ended slavery on this land, this nation we call Canada. Now, true. The man I will address is Justin Trudeau. It's true. He says, you know, Canada doesn't really have, you know, we're not really, we got no customs, we got no this, we got no that, or whatever. You know, he's dissing us off, and everybody's getting upset. But what he's talking about is he's talking about the corporate body, which it does have customs and stuff. So he's basically incorrect there, no matter what. But as a nation, and a country and a nation are two different things. But as a nation, oh yeah, we got customs, man. We got customs. Now, when we did end slavery, you know, the government figured out, well, how can we still enslave people and get them to consent to it? And then it's not slavery because they're consenting to the servitude. And so they come up with stuff, you know, and start dealing with persons only. And and over the years they have basically forgot about man and mankind. They're creators, okay? Man created government to protect property of man. I mean, no man on this land owes the government anything but the protection of property. That's my opinion, and I'm more welcome to it. Now, if you wish to, you know, get involved in certain aspects and you wish to act as a person within the corporate body, that's fine. That it's there to benefit us. We are the beneficiaries of this corporate body, right? So, and we have a right to, because we were born here. We're of this land. They're operating on our land. There again, I can hear my native buddies yelling at me. Hey, so so what they did with our native cousins is they made the reserves, right? Prisoner of war camps. It was a great way to just throw them in the bush and house them and let them take care of themselves for the most part. We invented apartheid. That was us. Well, it wasn't us. It was the Canadian establishment. It was the establishment that screwed my native cousins then, screwed my forefathers prior, and are screwing us now with a lot of bad statutes. All right, and I'll tell you the difference between law and statute in a bit. So, all these poor folks, instead of us coming together as a nation, as a people, and growing together, the establishment saw benefit for them to keep us separated, to keep us indifferent from each other. And so instead of growing, let's take since 1867. So instead of coming together and growing as a nation since 1867, there's just been further separation. And then, and these folks, put into these prisoner of war camps that we call reserves. They weren't allowed to get off those reserves without federal permission until I think in the early 70s, I believe. That's the establishment. That wasn't a white man. That was the establishment. Oh, the establishment was all white men. No, you know what? You know what our forefathers were guilty of? Not doing anything. We didn't do something about it. We had trusted in the establishment we've trusted way too much in the establishment. So, because we didn't do anything, a lot of people have been harmed over the years. And it's time to correct it. But it wasn't white man. It was the establishment. The same establishment that screwed my daddy, screwed your daddy. Right? Now, of course, we had, we've had nothing but problems, and a lot of these poor folks don't even have clean water. Why are we giving $5 million, $2 billion, $1 billion? Why is this private corporation, CBC, this crown corporation that's supposed to be operating as a de facto public service? Why are they getting 1 point what billion? How many reserves? How many prisoner of war camps is there within this nation? Hey, you think we can get them some clean water and tell those other guys to go beg for their salaries? They can come to me. They can put on a good radio or TV show and then come to me and say, hey, look, we're trying to raise funds to get through the next year. And instead, these establishment is given over our money. The government has no money. They borrow money. We, as a people, create money. And yeah, I can hear some of you right now going, yeah, fiat currency, da-da-da-da-da. There's nothing wrong with the fiat currency system in itself. It's a great idea. And it's currency based on the faith of the people. Well, right up until Trudeau Sr., we actually printed our own. Now we don't print our own. Now we have to borrow it and somebody prints it for us and we have to pay them back with interest. Okay? Which is why since, I don't know, when we started our fiat currency, I can't really remember, but I'm pretty sure it was in the 1800s. We had our own bank called the Bank of Canada. Yeah, we have a bank called the Bank of Canada. But we had a bank that was our bank that was called the Bank of Canada. And so we didn't pay any interest to print currency. We didn't pay anything. Until Trudeau put us on, I believe it's Federal Reserve Bank number 13, owned by the Rothschilds or somebody. So anyways, private bankers we borrow from now to get our money printed. So we went from owing no more than $12 million anytime through three big wars. Korea first, second, and Korea. Not to mention all our other stuff that we've done around the world. We were a nation coming into itself pretty good after the First World War. We've had so many Native heroes that weren't allowed to receive like the Victoria Cross or special awards of honor because they were Native. Now that whole Indian Act thing is just wrong, all right? Now I'm going to get to this private prosecution thing, but what I'm trying to get through, Canada has a history of being a rotten establishment. Okay? Their whole history since 1867 has been to get away with what they figure they can get away with. That's it. They push the limit. They're like a child. They push the limit. We don't have a de jure government. We don't have a de jure constitution. No province is a de jure province. Not one of them has a de jure constitution made up by the people, okay, of the land there. What we have is a de facto government. It's a crown corporation that acts as government, and like I said, it has a twofold mandate. One is to operate as government, and two, and I'm talking public service. Okay, we have no leaders. We are the leaders. The people are the leaders. And number two is to make money for the crown corporation. So, yeah, this whole leadership thing. Yeah, sure, leader of a political party. Okay? But not a leader of the people. The people lead. So, so let me get into this. I apologize to you guys for ranting. All right? This is the first film I've ever done. Don't even know if I know how to get it on YouTube. So, but I'm going to throw it up there and see how many people hate me for it. All right. Now the reason I was into some of the history was just to give a basic layout that we are a people and have been for going on half a millennium now. We have grown. We really came into ourselves around 100 years ago during the First World War. The establishment has done whatever it could to keep us in past times from excelling, because we are smart and great people, really, really. But we are a bunch of pussies. We don't stand. These guys that are the private prosecution, okay, this is part of our inherent common law stuff. The private prosecution. It's a fundamental right for any man or woman to hold a private prosecution. But here's the issue with private prosecution. I've sent some notes to the guys doing it. Is number one, okay, when you're using a lawyer, what we call a lawyer, but I don't even know if we have lawyers. I know we have attorneys going to court. But when we use an attorney, the problem is that right away you come in as a legal person, immediately. When you use an attorney to lead your case, now this guy's just an agent, so he can't get in any trouble for whatever he does, right? He has a sworn oath to the bar. Okay, he is a bar. He is a bar. But he has a sworn oath to the legal society. And I'm not saying that they're all bad, because I know they're not. And I know there's those of mankind within the legal society that see a lot of the wrongdoings and have never wished to do this. They never wished to entertain on that. And do the best they can for people. I know there are. I've met a few. So that's number one. So what we have is we have trials by judge. Okay. We have trials by jury trials, which is a judge where there's a jury of peers that, not necessarily of your peers, but of the society around us, that are still controlled by the judge. Okay, where the judge will say, well, you got to find him guilty, but the jury's there to find out how much guilty you are. Then we have our fundamental inherent courts, which is a court of record trial by jury where the magistrate is independent of the tribunal. Because we are a self-governing people, all of us on the common law lands. Now, if you Google common law countries, it'll show you Australia, New Zealand, US, British Guyana, England, Ireland, Canada. It'll show you some bijural countries, so that were Napoleonic Civil Code, as well as common law, like South Africa, Scotland, Louisiana, Quebec, right? But still, the common law takes precedence, but you have your right to go either way. What they have done, what the establishment has done to all of us, they've tricked us into thinking that we have to enter the legal system and be seen as a legal person to hold court, and that's not true. Okay, as a man, I have a right to hold court. That's a public courthouse. The legal society did not build me that courthouse to go in as a legal person. Our forebears built that courthouse so that we could take our disagreement that we couldn't settle on the private side, on the street, into a public forum. Those are public buildings. Now, legal society rents, space in our public buildings, but it's gotten so bad that if a man goes in to establish, to file a suit, to file his claim and build a suit at a common law court of record, trial by jury, where the magistrate is independent of the tribunal, they start hitting you with nicknaming you, profiling you as vexatious, as OPC whatever litigant, as just crazy stuff to keep mankind out of our own buildings. It's a public building. Now, last time I checked, mankind was part of the public. So the difference on a trial by jury, as opposed to the jury trial I just explained to you, was the trial by jury is where you have 12 of mankind as the judges. Now, the magistrate is just there to organize the court, make sure everything, kind of like the rules are run down, everybody's situated and orderly, and he's basically the cupbearer for the court. All right. Now, I'm sure these folks in black robes hate me saying this, and I'm sure they just love to shut me up. But we're at the point now within this nation that we're about to lose all our freedoms. There is no justification. Look, no free speech, no free country. Okay? No free speech, no freedom. Period. So the reason I'm going on about the different types of court, and with a court that's our right to hold, if we wish, is because when you have a trial by jury instead of a jury trial, if the government passes a bad law and the unelected Senate passes the bad law, and then it receives royal assent on a bad law, you can be found not guilty because it is a bad law. All right? Now, I'm telling you right now, I was just, I was listening to the man I call Justin Trudeau, or I address as Justin Trudeau. On his lawful excuse, 724.2 of the Criminal Code, lawful excuse, which is our inherent right as well. Like, this goes both into common law and statutory law. His lawful excuse to the public, which is why he probably wasn't charged, well, that, and he's got the AG rigged and everything else. He's got dirty butts in high places. But anyways, he gave a lawful excuse that he was saving Canadian jobs. All right? Now, which is fine.